all good things comes to an end, and Printing United 2019 is on the third day. It's actually our last episode on this live broadcast today, and who's better to give an evaluation of the show than the president himself. So I'm here with Ford Bowers from the SGIA. First of all, Ford, a very, very warm congratulations on a very, very successful show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you're here, and it has been a fantastic show. We've been absolutely thrilled with the warm embrace from the attendees and the exhibitors. It's been great.
I think that when you and, I don't know if it was you and Mark Supers that together came up with this game plan, but right. I take you have stakes in it anyway,
yes,
right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Wasn't that kind of... That was. We can agree that it's a very bold move to do something as stupid as this, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't without some risk, and I might have been a very short-lived CEO had it not worked out as well as it has. But yeah, it was definitely forward-thinking. It was thinking a bit out of the box, and yes, you're right. I met Mark Supers in January.
Partners in Crime?
Partners in Crime in January 20th, and we saw everything kind of very much the same way. So there's a little serendipity, you just never know who you're going to meet and how things are going to develop. And then, of course, our relationship with NAPCO developed over the next couple of years, and to the point now where, they're part of our family, as it were. So, but this has been fantastic, and so this has taken about 2 years to get off the ground, but we couldn't be more thrilled with the results. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a moment, but we have plenty of time. So I was just thinking that every time somebody is inventing new things, it always starts from a need of change, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, and this is a response to what's been happening in the marketplace for a number of years. And having come from the printing side, I was a print service provider. I managed a big place in Atlanta. I knew that what printers wanted to see was more adjacencies of technologies. They wanted to see where they could grow, and they had to go to multiple shows to do that. And even as a printer, some years ago, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could go to one place and not worry about what was going to be there, that everything I needed to see was going to be there. So I knew that time out of the shop is valuable, so that's on the one side. I also knew, because I'd been involved with SGIA and on the board of directors, that the issue that the manufacturers have and the suppliers have in terms of the costs of coming to trade shows. I mean, it's a tremendous, cost for them to do this for the printing community, and they really have to get a good ROI to continue this. And so to bring all of the audiences together so that they can approach them all at one time makes perfect sense. And of course, it was a stampede in terms of doing this, and it was because SGI had built a really solid trade show, a foundation of apparel and industrial and graphics providers, and NAPCO had the megaphone in terms of the commercial, the implant, and the packaging side. All 6 of those segments are now being brought together. So again, I mean, yeah.
So I guess that United can be interpreted in different ways, right? Because it can be interpreted in this under one roof. Right. One roof approach that you have for the market, right. But it also could be like a signal that the printing industry needs to stand united in order to get growth.
Absolutely. I've long thought that our industry, particularly in North America, and I think it's the same in Europe, but we're very fragmented, we're very fractured. And as a result, as an industry, we punch well below our weight. We're much more powerful as an industry if we work together than if we maintain our distance and everybody stays in their lanes. So this is just really a first step in kind of bringing the communities together. The next steps will be, how do we get everybody to take advantage of this kind of a platform, and how do we extend that into things that are much more critical than, not that trade shows aren't critical, they're very critical to me and the exhibitors, but things like workforce development.
Maybe more to you than most, right?
Maybe more to me than most, that's right. Workforce development is a big issue for our industry. How do we get new people into the industry? How do we train them, cultivate them, allow them to grow? You have legislative issues, regulatory issues. Those have to be dealt with, and those are much better dealt with collectively than they are piecemeal. And so the idea is, what we've tried to do as an organization is to create a platform into which everyone can plug in some form or fashion and thrive and grow as a result. So that's really what it's about.
So when you started thinking about this thing, SGIA was one company organization. NAPCO was another one, and I totally get that you have a membership organization and you have a megaphone, as you say.
Right.
When you started thinking about doing this show, what kind of ideas did you think was important for the industry? Because I mean, one thing is to put a lot of people on the show floor and charge them a bunch of money and get going, right? But another thing is the output of things and how the industry can grow and evolve from this one. Have you had considerations about that as well?
Well, I mean, that was actually part of the reason for the acquisition. We've come up with a number of ideas. Might be a little premature to discuss them in detail, but
I'd like to hear them anyway.
I'm sure. We'll give you some scoops. We'll give you definitely some scoops. But there were so many things that we wanted to do as a result of the success of this, and we knew for some months that it would be successful. But as a result of this, there are things we want to do moving forward that really required us to be an organically intertwined organization rather than two separate legal entities. It just made it very difficult for us to function and operate. But that said, yes, I mean, again, the next steps are to really figure out how to get other associations and other organizations involved. And here you'll also see like IPMA, AICC, you see a lot of other organizations already participating in this. They're offering education, they're having booths, and
so that extends to the United, actually.
That's really the United part of it. And quite honestly, Printing United is a wonderful aspirational sentiment, right? And so now what we have to do as an organization is live up to that and be worthy of the name Printing United. And how do we do that?
I can tell you that the worst fear I had before the show, I had great confidence in the management team and a great confidence in the show. Mm-hmm. But worst case scenario, when you had like the print show in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and you have this show, my worst fear was that both shows were failing.
Oh,
but since you're so successful, it seems that you saw the trends right. There was a one roof need.
Yes.
Under one roof need. There was a need for something new in the market, right?
Right.
I know it can be critical in the U.S. to talk about things. I'm not trying to put anybody on the stake here.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to kind of conclude that if both shows had 0 visitors, then there was no need in the market, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So that's more my perspective, trying to understand the market need you saw. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, as a printer, I think I had some understanding of what was going on in the printing community. It was anecdotal evidence. It's still evidence, but it's anecdotal. So we did some research on it, and we tried to figure out who is crossing what line.
Is that also geographical, or because I mean?
No, more
segment-wise, or
segment-wise. Yeah. So it's more application, and technology-wise. Who's crossing into to which lanes, that kind of thing, and how much of that's going on, and is it accelerating? Is it declining? Is it working out? And so we really, I think, once we did that research, we realized, okay, well, this is solid. There's not, anything can fail, but we felt like that this would be a pretty good home run. But at the end of the day, I think that, again, we still have a lot of work to do to figure out what's the next level, because this is 3 days a year. We have 362 more days, and so we have some thoughts about how we're going to deliver there too as well.
That's one thing, but I think from a starting point, doing the first show, I know you have the foundation of SGIA to grow from, but under all circumstances, creating a show like this and manage to get it, so well positioned.
Right.
As I said, congratulations, because I think if there wasn't any room for improvement, then we could go home, right?
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, but one of the best things to come out of this show, from what I'm hearing from industry veterans and newbies, alike, is that for something to grow this big in 1 year, like a 20% growth pattern, and we'll do it again next year, I think people are saying, oh, geez, this is phenomenal, because we're used to seeing things slowly decline in print. We're not used to seeing something vibrant, and everybody kind of bemoans and bewails but what it used to be like. And we've had people, I don't want to quote anybody, but somebody said it's the best show they've been to in North America since 1997.
I heard the same.
Yeah. So and then you have people saying second only to Drupa in importance, that sort of thing for some of the exhibitors here. Those are the kinds of things that really give people the idea that it's a viable, vibrant, vital community. And so this is kind of proof of concept that print isn't really, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually very good. It's growing, and everything's fantastic, really. It's a great industry to be in.
Yeah. And when you are in an industry and you have a show where you have this extreme positivism that I have experienced during these 3 days. Maybe the visitors, the guests here, they go home and think that this is not, after all, such a bad industry to be in. So let's do something so we can grow our industry, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And here, not a lot of time for networking, but you see your friends, you talk to them, you talk to the exhibitors. Whatever your assumptions are, you can have them validated or invalidated. I mean, it's a crucible of sorts of where your next ideas are going to come from. Very concentrated period where you can really kind of look at the scope, the landscape of what's possible, and then you sort that out over the next month or 2 or 3, and then you move on, and then you repeat that cycle a year from now.
Let's talk about just final here about this show, because this is, of course, we're live right now, so I guess some might be interested in listening. So I guess that you've been talking to a lot of the exhibitors here. So what is the first impressions you hear from them?
The first impressions I hear from them is that they are, for the most part, exceeding their lead gen, quotas that they set out. Somebody said we had a really good show last year. One of the exhibitors said we got more leads this year than we did in all 3 days last year. And so those are the kind of things you go like, okay, well this is good. This has got some legs on it. There are pretty big sales are taking place on the show floor. I literally haven't talked to an exhibitor yet who's just been down about it.
We just made an interview with Andre from Riso. They sold 26 machines on the show.
Oh wow, that means our booth space costs are going to go up.
He kind of promised that they will be here next year as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, interestingly enough, we've next year's bookings for Atlanta 2020. We've almost sold as much space for next year as we have on the floor this year.
That was actually the one thing I was a little curious about, because next year is the Drupa year. So I was wondering if you were worried whether that would affect the sign-ups.
Apparently not. Yeah. So
are you expecting to grow next year then?
Yes, we expect to grow. So this hall is 724,000 square feet. In Atlanta, we have over 1 million square feet.
So you're busy the next couple of months? I'm
going to be busy, yeah. Well, actually, I've got people. They'll be busy.
So you will be on the golf court if they need any your help?
I'm going to be taking a nap. That's what I'm going to be doing.
I think I will take a nap when we're done here as well.
Yeah.
So first impression seems to be extremely good. So I guess that what is really the measurements is that when people get home and do the follow-up on the leads and see the quality of the leads here, that is the second impression.
It is, and we have a supplier and manufacturers council, and we'll actually be having a call in a couple of weeks, and we're going to pick their brains about what went well and what can be improved, and they're going to give us unvarnished feedback about what the experience was like for them and what they thought it was like for the attendees. We've done a few other things this year, like we put beacon technology on the floor.
I saw that.
So we're going to be, which is, is a way to map the flow of the visitors. Where do they go? How do they, congregate? Where do they stand? Some of the booths, some of the larger booths, it's actually at the machine level, so we know who's standing in front of a machine for more than a minute, that kind of thing. So it's experimental, to a certain extent, but we think this is going to give us a lot of information about how to improve the experience across the board. So we really want to be a world-class trade show.
Do you, sometimes when I've been a Drupa like 2, 3 times, 4 times maybe, and when I am a Drupa, I always blew my mind away about the length and the size and things like that. And I remember the first time I came to a Graph Expo show here in the US, I was just like, oh, it's so tiny. And I was just like, I would have thought that in America there was almost a size for, or a market for, not maybe as big, but quite big.
Right. Yeah, and of course we don't really have, I guess they had a 4-year cycle with the international version, print and Graph Expo, that kind of things. But we've, Drupa is much more the one roof approach. Maybe they don't have as much in terms of textile and screen printing, but everything else is represented there. And so this is, in a sense, it's that model, and I think it's much needed. It certainly works there, and that's the thrill of going to Drupa, because it's like a candy store for printers, because you get to see everything in one place. Obviously, that size is difficult for the exhibitors to do on an annual basis.
Oh yeah.
So that's really for major technology pushes. That everybody gets their stuff ready for Drupa. This is, but you also need, I think, an annual cadence, because digital technology improves every year and has a faster cadence in terms of the R&D and the go-to-market cycle for them. So an annual show that's under one roof for North America is good. Drupa is good for that big 4-year push. So.
Thank you for the time, and once more, congratulations.
All right, thank you so much.